I can't believe her stupidity. Apologies that this is a long post. I really just want to offload, but grateful to anyone who sticks with me until the end. It looks like my wife is now finally realizing that decisions have consequences. The backstory is that my wife started an affair with AP, a 23-year-old work colleague, back in February. I discovered it almost straight away. After a very brief attempt at reconciliation, she decided to leave me. In mid-April she moved into a new apartment, allegedly on her own, but I was pretty certain AP was living there too. While all this was unfolding, my wife deployed all the usual tactics to defend her shitty behavior, like blaming me for being a terrible husband, and claiming our whole marriage has been nothing but misery. The situation was made messy by the fact we have a daughter, whose custody we share 50-50. Anyway, the signs that things were maybe less than perfect between my wife and AP started to reveal themselves very early on, even before she moved out. In particular, I remember her texting me while she was on a 3-night intercourse vacation with AP to tell me she was feeling sad and that she was thinking of coming home early. I ignored the messages, so she stayed. Then, a week after she moved out, when we had our first child handover day, my wife gave me a note saying I'm so sorry. I really ducked up. I didn't know what to make of this, so I ignored this too. For the next few weeks, our exchanges became cold and businesslike. This was largely because I was employing gray rock technique. I think this really annoyed her, but then, last week she texted me on the day before handover day and asked me if I wanted to do something together. I replied no thanks. On the handover day, we met on neutral territory in the local park as we did every week. It was my turn to collect our daughter off her. I barely had to say hello before my wife broke down in tears and said she's sad, she's lonely, and she's struggling. She then said she misses me and that she would turn back time if she could. I thought she might come to this conclusion eventually. But I thought she'd last more than 6 ducking weeks. I reminded her that she was unhappy with me. So if she's still unhappy without me, then maybe the problem is her. I asked her what she was doing to improve her mental health. She said she desperately needs to get her ADHD diagnosed and medicated before she makes more reckless decisions through chasing dopamine highs. Yes, that's right, she blames ADHD for having the affair and destroying our family. The obvious elephant in the room was whether she was still seeing AP. So I just asked the question outright. She told me she's spending less time with him. However, she's sort of become dependent on him for certain things. Like her housing. What? I said, feigning surprise, even though I suspected this all along. She confirmed my suspicions. The apartment she is living in is shared with AP. I pretended like I couldn't believe the stupidity. But really nothing surprises me anymore. How could she move out of our stable marital home and into an apartment with some 23-year-old delinquent whom she's been seeing for all of a month? And not only that. But it turns out AP is only there for half the week when my wife doesn't have our daughter, which means he only pays a quarter of the rent and bills. But because his name's on the tenancy agreement, my wife isn't entitled to any state benefits. In other words, she can't afford the rent and is eating into our family savings to cover her basic living costs. And the worst part is, she's signed a 12-month tenancy agreement, which means she's stuck in this arrangement. At this point she said she was truly sorry. She made a terrible mistake. She wishes she had listened when I tried to stop her leaving. Blah blah ducking blah. She said she'd never planned to rent with AP, but she couldn't afford a place on her own, so he agreed to help out. Oh great. So he's her ducking knight in shining armor. She also said she'd do anything to get back with me. For starters, she said she'll try and get AP to leave the apartment, and she'll ask the landlord to take his name off the tenancy. The problem is, I still struggle to believe a word she says. I asked her what's gone wrong with AP that's causing her to feel this way. She said AP's done nothing wrong. It's just she's now realized she is still in love with me and she doesn't want to string him along. Well, of course she's not going to admit that it's all gone horribly wrong with AP and that I'm just the backup plan. So I asked why she suddenly realized she loves me again. She said something about our marriage not being all bad. I pushed her on this point further and she said she misses the things we used to do together. For example, she misses being able to have intellectual conversations. Ha, because intellect is not exactly AP's strength. Finally, I asked her if AP knows she still has feelings for me. She said he does. But that he still wants to be with her anyway. At this point I was starting to think maybe they ducking deserve each other. We ended the conversation with me saying I'm not currently interested in getting back with her, and that her priority needs to be getting herself out of this absolute mess of a situation and improving her mental health. That's pretty much where the story ends for now. Thanks for listening if you stuck with me. Luckily for me, I'm feeling pretty over her right now, So I'm not considering reconciliation. I'll admit I take some satisfaction in seeing it all fall apart for her, like I knew it would. But overall it's just so sad it's come to this, especially considering we were pretty happy together at the start of the year. I also worry that my wife's behavior is just so irrational that maybe this is all one big mental breakdown. In which case I don't really know what to do or to what extent I should support her. It's in no one's interest and certainly not in our daughter's interest if she does suffer a mental breakdown. And I'll admit I'm uncomfortable about the thought of her feeling forced to share an apartment and a bed with this imbecile purely out of desperation, because she's got nowhere else to go. Ugh, what a ducking mess. Advice on those last 2 paragraphs is certainly appreciated. You are doing the right thing refusing her advances. Judging by her history with you, she is a serial cheater. You know of multiple affairs, this just happens to be the one she moved in with. Now that she doesn't have her comfortable home to do her cheating escapades, she is feeling down. She now lives with the guy and they are semi-official, so the dopamine rush is gone. It's no longer fun, plus it sounds like the guy isn't very useful outside of the bedroom. So now she is stuck with a guy that she longer gets a rush from, he has no benefits with the intercourse being dull, and she is beyond broke. She shit her bed, let her lie in it. If you even give her an opening, nothing will change. She has never shown any inclination of being a good wife. Move on and find the person you deserve.